As I jumped off the train looking all cool with my impossibly large sword on my back, that's a weird sentence. Well, it wasn't long before I was getting grief off these Shinra security guards, and you know what? I've got enough of their bullshit for one day. And after reading the first tutorial, it was here where I got my first taste of the awesome combat in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And after making short work of those grunts, well, I got my first trophy warming up. And as I ventured further into this train station area, having more cool combat encounters, I started to unlock even more trophies. And at that point I thought, well, there's no going back now, because I've unlocked several trophies and it's on my trophy list now, so I can't actually get rid of it anymore. So it's either I get the platinum or I leave it with an uncompleted percentage and no platinum. And I really hate to do that on my list, so I just figured, well, let's just try and do it and see what happens. Because, for me, I have a bad history with Final Fantasy VII, and this is the only Final Fantasy I played because of my experience with the original. You see, this game and I have unfinished business, and it all started back in 1998 when I first got this game, Final Fantasy VII, for my shiny new PlayStation 1. So at this point, I was a teenager, and I had never actually played an RPG game like this before. It was all new to me, all of the systems with the materia and the combat and turn-based mechanics was all new to me. I'd never experienced anything like this before, and this game was absolutely huge, coming on 3 discs, so I knew I was in for a big challenge in order to complete this, and everyone was raving about how great this game was. But for me, my experience with Final Fantasy VII kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, and it made me doubt whether I should play the remake or not, because I was worried that I wouldn't be able to get the platinum. You see, things went wrong for me in the original Final Fantasy VII when I got to what I believe was the Temple of Ancients level. So this was still on disc 1 of the game. I had completed the Midgar section and done all of that and explored the open world, and eventually throughout the journey we came to this temple, and I don't really remember too much about it because I've never played the game since I played it back in like 1998, and I only played it then because it was a game that you would get for free if you subscribed to a magazine called PlayStation Pro. You could pick like 3 or 4 different games, and I had all the others, and this was like the only one I didn't have, so I just got that in order to get the magazine for a year. So I vaguely remember going through the temple and eventually getting past those annoying boulders that roll down and just end up sending you right the way back. And I remember just getting to a point where I had to save the game. And as I made this save in my single save slot, I was about to make the biggest mistake that I could make during my playthrough. You see, back in the day, with PS1 games, you could only save on a memory card, and there was like 17 or so slots on this 1 megabyte memory card, and my memory card was completely full of other games, so I only had one single save for Final Fantasy, and I had no more space to make any more saves, so every time I was making progress, I was overwriting my one and only save, so I didn't have any backup saves. And as I progressed through this temple, and if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure once you went into this temple, you couldn't just back out, you had to progress through this in order to carry on with the game, so you were pretty much stuck in here until you finished it. And as I got into this normal-looking box room with a door, I was unaware that I was about to face the biggest, most bullshit thing in the game, the Demon's Gate boss. Now, when it appeared, I just figured it was just another normal boss fight. The battle music started playing, and I just figured I would just use the same tactics I had been doing with my team of Cloud, Aeris, and Tifa. But then the boss did its first move, Demon Rush, and he completely and utterly wiped my entire team out in one fucking move, and that was it. Game over. fuck me. And the worst thing was, it happened every fucking time I played it again. I can't tell you how frustrating and heartbreaking that was to get stuck at the Demon's Gate boss, because that is where my Final Fantasy VII journey ended, because I never beat this game. I never got to have that sweet sound of success after beating the boss and then carrying on with the rest of the game, because I was just stuck there. I didn't even get off the first disc. How pathetic was that? It was such a big fail. It's probably the biggest gaming fail I've ever encountered in my gaming career, if you want to call it that, because I never got to experience the rest of this brilliant game. I never got to see Aerith get killed. I never got to defeat Sephiroth. I mean, fucking hell, what an absolute fail. And that's why I never brought the remake. I only played it because of the PlayStation Plus giving it away for free, but I was always worried that I would encounter this problem again. And I must have spent countless hours playing the original back in the day, and I really got invested in the game and the story and the characters and what was going on, so it was really heartbreaking to just get stuck so early on this bullshit boss and never be able to see the rest of the story and the rest of the game and actually beat it. Due to a bullshit boss and kind of my own stupidity with just saving on a single save file, and it's something that's always haunted me and I've always remembered it, and as a result I always make multiple backups of my saves now because of this game and the memory of this nightmare of just failing so badly. So as you can imagine, when I looked into the remake itself and realised that you only ever play the Midgar section of the game, so you never actually leave that city until the very end, so I would never see the open world part, and more importantly, I would never actually have to go into the Temple of Ancients and face the Demon Gate boss. Well, I felt a lot better about my chances of actually managing to beat this, because I don't remember anything that was totally bullshit in that Midgar section, so I kind of felt a bit more confident, and as I started to play through the game, I started to unlock a bunch of trophies, and by the time I actually managed to complete the campaign, I got a fair amount of them, and I was kind of feeling more and more confident that I would actually be able to get this platinum. Yep, that's right, I actually beat the game. I can say I beat Final Fantasy. Well, kind of, but not really. But it's still a win in my opinion, and that steadied me in a good position to carry on and try and get the platinum, because it took me around, I think it was about 25 hours to beat the game for the first time, I think, and I got quite a few trophies at that point. The game throws 18 story trophies at you for just completing every chapter, and there's quite a few trophies you'll earn pretty early on for just doing basic things in battle, like staggering your first enemy, casting your first summon, so as soon as you get that ability you'll get a load of those trophies. But the hardest ones for me were ones that were related to some of the minigames, like the one for getting the high score on the darts minigame was a pain in the ass, because you had to get like 7 bullseyes in a row, which was a bloody pain, and then it just got worse as I got further into the game and got to the gym area with the challenges there, because you had to do these push-ups, and that was a hard little mini game where it's like a little quick time thing where you got to press the buttons in a sequence and get into the rhythm and not do it too early or too late, otherwise you'll fail. So trying to get the Sultan of Squat trophy was a bit of a pain, but that was nothing, absolutely nothing to the pain I suffered through trying to get the pull-ups trophy, because that one was an absolute bullshit. So you would naturally do one as part of the story, and then you unlock the Amateur League basically, which is like a harder version with 2 rounds, and it's like the push-ups with like a quick time event, and then once you've done that one, you unlocked the Pro, which was even more bullshit because the computer would just fly through it and do a shitload of pull-ups, and it took me quite a while to beat that one. It was a big pain. Another tricky one was Dancing Queen, but thankfully I got it first time because this one requires you to get praise for beating the dance mini game with like a good score. So it's kind of just like a Parappa the Rapper sort of section where you're just dancing and you'll see these button prompts on screen, but the problem was it's the way it moves around with the camera. It's hard to see the button prompt and this little glowing thing that flies into it to see when you should press it, so it's easy to miss a few. So that one was a bit of a pain. There are some collectible trophies in the game as well. There's one called Disc Jockey, which requires you to collect 30 songs. So you can buy these from vending machines that you'll see throughout the game, and if you speak to certain characters throughout the city, they will often just give you one for free. And it weren't too bad to find them, to be honest, because you will see a question mark in the top left corner when you're in an area with one nearby, so it's just a case of going to a shop, talking to someone, or just finding it somewhere. So yeah, that wasn't too bad. Another collectible one was the Intelligent Agent one for Chadley, for getting all of his battle reports. So this would require you to like assess so many enemies, defeat so many enemies, and do certain things within the battle, use magic or whatever to defeat so many. So there was quite a few challenges there that were quite tricky to get and make sure you got them through your playthrough, but you could carry them over into other playthroughs, so it wasn't that bad. Then it was pretty much just a case of leveling up my characters to level 50 so that I was prepared enough to be able to go into the hard playthrough, because there's also a trophy for hard. So I just did this in the Corneo Coliseum. There was just one of the 3-man events there that I could just play really quickly with my fire magic to just destroy everything straight away. So after about an hour or so of leveling up, I got it, because I finished the game with about level 30 something. So it wasn't too much of a grind to get to 50. One of the worst trophies though was the Dress to the Nines trophy, which requires you to see all 3 dresses for each of the 3 characters, and that one was tied to story choices, things that you would say in the campaign which would determine which dress you got. So it was quite tricky to keep a track of that and make sure you got it. And the final set of 3 dresses was tied to the hard mode trophy, so you had to basically do 2 playthroughs plus some chapter select to get the other set. Now perhaps the hardest trophy was the Ultimate Weapon one, which requires you to beat the Pride and Joy boss. And this was tied to the Shinra Combat Simulator, which is basically a bunch of combat challenges that get harder as you go through them. And once you beat all of them, you unlock a final special one, which basically pits you up against the summons from the game. So the hardest points for me was the Leviathan boss, and then the Bahamut one, because that can kill you in one hit. And once you get past them, the actual Pride and Joy boss is quite easy to defeat. So it will take you a couple of attempts, but eventually you'll get it, and it's a really cool trophy. After that, I just had the hard playthrough to do, as well as getting learning some of the enemy moves that you can steal with one of the materia that you have equipped. So there was 4 of those that I had to get. And I also had to learn all of the moves with the weapons. So during my hard playthrough, I just had to find a few more weapons to buy and equip them and just use them until I learnt the move. And after that, and beating it on hard, I then finally got the Platinum Trophy, and it felt really good. And it was a fun time. I actually enjoyed it, and it's kind of redeemed me a little bit. But I will have to beat the remakes part 2 and 3 before I feel like I've truly beaten Final Fantasy VII. And who knows, I might eventually go back and try and beat the original again. Who knows?